Hey, what is up, everybody? I'm here to give you the Retro Wrestling Review Series, Season 8, Episode 16, and this is going to be the season finale. I am really happy to be finally at this point because I've been doing this season for a little over a month now, and I just have been trying to get it done but haven't been able to because I've had to put my focus into studying for finals, and then at the end of May, I ended up going to Texas, and I was able to do some while I was down there, but I wasn't able to get all of them done. And then, I ended up, I also had those technical issues with my webcam on my computer, but I'm going to finally finish them. So thank you guys for being so patient with this. And like I said, I really enjoyed doing the NXT specials review series. But the issue is I'm happy to be done with it because for two reasons. One, I can finally stop watching NXT again because I've kind of had to put that on the back burner so I could get this season done. And another reason is that I can kind of get back on track with my YouTube channel, sort of. Not completely, but sort of. Because I've had to put all my focus into finishing this season. But I finally finished it. So, I'm pretty damn happy about it. Now, I just want to make sure that you guys know that I'm not going to actually be reviewing an NXT special in this because I've already reviewed them all. What this is going to consist of, it's going to be a little bit of an info session. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you guys some statistics and, about each thing. I'm going to talk about, stuff about these NXT specials. I'm going to talk about, how many there have been, attendance-wise, win-loss records. I'm gonna go over the best and worst competitors at NXT specials. I'm gonna go over the best and worst matches, best and worst specials themselves. And I'm also gonna go over, that's pretty much all I'm gonna do. So I hope you guys enjoyed this info session. I just want to make sure you guys know that I will not be included anything from NXT TakeOver Chicago because I have not seen that show yet. So I'm only going up to the most recent one that I've done on this channel, which you can check out right up here. So I just want to make sure that you guys know that. But now that I've done that, let's pretty much just get right into it. So let me just start off, talking about the events. In total, there have been 15 NXT specials. The first one aired on February 27th, 2014. And it was the NXT Arrival event. And a fun fact about that one is that was actually the first wrestling event that aired on the WWE Network because the WWE Network was launched on February 24th, 2014. So I think that's some pretty damn interesting stuff there. And the last one aired on April 1st, 2017, and that was NXT TakeOver Orlando. So that's pretty damn interesting there. But think about it, there's been 15 specials. You think that people were wondering, well, why isn't there more specials since NXT came on the air pretty much in 2014. Well, that's because NXT doesn't have a lot of specials. They don't do a special every month like the mainstream WWE does. How they structured it is they would do one every few months. But now they do one during the Big Four WWE pay-per-views, so I think that's pretty damn interesting. And now the highest attended NXT special is NXT TakeOver Brooklyn 2. It drew 15,671 people. It was at the Barclays Center, and it made sense because this was during SummerSlam weekend. This was the second NXT TakeOver Brooklyn. The first one drew like a little bit less than that, maybe because they sold out more tickets. I'm not really sure. But yeah, I think that's pretty damn special that NXT TakeOver Brooklyn 2 drew that many people. It just kind of showed how big of a brand NXT had become, and I think that's awesome. So, cool for NXT, and it was a great show to have that big attendance for. But the lowest attended one, we have a 5-way tie. It's NXT Arrival. NXT Takeover, NXT Takeover Fatal 4-Way, NXT Takeover All Evolution, and NXT Takeover Respect. They drew 400 plus people. The reason why is because all of those took place at Full Sail University, and that's not really like a big venue. So it can only fit maybe that many people in there, but it's still pretty damn huge. But there's there's been a lot of them that have been filled at Full Sail University, but some of them when I was going through Wikipedia said sold out, and this one didn't say sold out. So I'm assuming the ones that were sold out just drew maybe like a little bit more people than these events here. So I thought that was pretty interesting. And the person that has the best win-loss record ever at NXT special events is Asuka. Asuka is 8-0 at NXT specials. And Asuka, has never lost a match at an NXT special. She's actually never lost a match in NXT period. Probably has the longest undefeated streak probably ever in the history of professional wrestling. But let's kind of go through Asuka's specials for victories. Asuka's first NXT special was at NXT Takeover Respect, where she ended up defeating Dana Brooke, and then continuing the next one at NXT Takeover London, she ended up defeating Emma, who was a crucial part of the women's revolution. Kind of started that, the revolution in women's wrestling. At NXT Takeover Dallas, she defeated Bayley for the NXT Women's Championship. Bayley was somebody that was part of the 4 Horsewomen that came into NXT. And she was a big, pretty dominant underdog champion. And then continuing at NXT Takeover the End, she ended up defeating Nia Jax. Nia Jax was someone that was a monster, running roughshod through everybody in NXT, and Asuka defeated her. At NXT Takeover Brooklyn 2, she defeated Bayley in a rematch. At NXT Takeover Toronto, she defeated Mickie James. Mickie James was someone that was a former women's champion, former Divas champion, and a former TNA Knockouts champion, was a veteran in the WWE, had been wrestling pretty much since 2006. And then continuing at NXT Takeover San Antonio, she defeated Nikki Cross, Billie Kay, and Peyton Royce in a Fatal 4-Way match, which is pretty damn impressive. And then in the most recent one, NXT Takeover Orlando, she defeated Ember Moon. So yeah, Asuka's 8-0, never lost a match in NXT, so that's really damn impressive. But unfortunately, we have the person with the worst win-loss record, and unfortunately, that's Ty Dillinger. He has an 0-5 record. He's never won at an NXT special, and I feel bad for Ty Dillinger because he got over, and he never got to have that big victory at an NXT special. I'm kind of a little bit disappointed with that, but he still had some good matches there. But unfortunately, it's kind of, I have to give him that case. His win-loss record is at NXT Takeover All Evolution, he lost a match to Baron Corbin in pretty quick fashion. At NXT Takeover Brooklyn, he lost a match to Apollo Crews. At NXT Takeover The End, he lost a match to Andrade Cien Almas. At NXT Takeover Toronto, he lost a match to Bobby Roode. And at NXT Takeover San Antonio, he lost a match to Eric Young. And at NXT Takeover Orlando, his team lost a match to Sanity, where he ended up eating the pinfall. So that's kind of a shame for Ty Dillinger, but I can't deny facts. Then continuing, we have the title defenses / changes that have taken place at NXT specials. I'm going to go over all of them. The NXT Championship has been defended 14 times at NXT specials. The only time that it wasn't was at NXT TakeOver Respect, but the champion was still involved. The NXT champion ended up competing in the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classics, where he ended up being on the winning team. So that's, at least the champion was still involved with some way. But the title has changed hands 6 times. The NXT Championship changed hands at an NXT special. I'm going to go over all the times. It changed hands at Arrival when Adrian Neville won it from Bo Dallas in a ladder match. It changed hands at NXT TakeOver All Evolution when Sami Zayn won it from Adrian Neville in a title versus career match. It changed hands at NXT TakeOver Rival when Kevin Owens defeated Sami Zayn for it. It changed hands at NXT TakeOver Brooklyn 2 when Shinsuke Nakamura defeated Samoa Joe for it. And it changed hands at NXT TakeOver Toronto when Samoa Joe defeated Shinsuke Nakamura for it, becoming the first ever two-time NXT champion. And the final one was a change hands at NXT TakeOver San Antonio when Bobby Roode defeated Shinsuke Nakamura for the title, and Bobby Roode is still the NXT champion to this day. And now going on, now we have the NXT Women's Championship, and the NXT Women's Championship has been defended 15 times. It's been defended at every NXT special event, which is really damn cool. I don't think any other title is ever going to top the NXT Women's title, unless it missed some takeovers. But it's only changed hands 4 times, which is really damn impressive. And it changed hands at NXT TakeOver when Charlotte defeated Natalya in a NXT Women's Championship tournament finals match. You could kind of say it didn't because the title was vacant, but there was a new champion that night, so I'm counting it. It changed hands at NXT TakeOver Rival when Sasha Banks defeated Charlotte, who was the champion going into that match. Bayley and Becky Lynch in a fatal 4-way match. It changed hands at NXT TakeOver Brooklyn when Bayley defeated Sasha Banks for the title. And the final one is a change hands at NXT TakeOver Dallas when Asuka defeated Bayley for it. And Asuka's held the championship since then. And then the final title is the NXT Tag Team Championships have been defended 14 times during an NXT special. The only time that it wasn't was at NXT TakeOver Respect, probably because they were doing the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classics at that time. But they've changed hands 6 times. This title has changed hands. Well, actually, no. This title is actually tied with the NXT Championship with most times it's ever changed hands. I'll go over when it changed hands. It changed hands at NXT TakeOver Fatal 4-Way when Kalisto and Sin Cara defeated the Ascension for the titles, ending their longest reigning NXT Tag Team Championship reign. It changed hands at NXT TakeOver Brooklyn when the Vaudevillains defeated Blake and Murphy. It changed hands at NXT TakeOver Dallas when American Alpha defeated the Revival. It changed hands at NXT TakeOver The End when the Revival defeated American Alpha, becoming the first and only team to become 2-time NXT Tag Team Champions. It changed hands at NXT TakeOver Toronto when #DIY defeated the Revival in a 2 out of 3 falls match for the titles. And then the final one is a change hands at NXT TakeOver San Antonio when the Authors of Pain defeated #DIY for the titles and still holding on to the championships to this day. So I think that's pretty damn impressive. Now I'm going to go over the best and worst NXT specials. I'm going to start off with the worst and then go up to the best. Yeah, but I'm going to say this. There really hasn't been an NXT special that's been actually shit, though. They've all have been at least a good special. But, you know, sometimes you got to pick and choose. And I'm not even sure if this list is really set in stone. It could change probably every time. So I'm just going to say that now. But let me go over it. So we have... oh, I'm missing one, by the way. I don't know which one I'm missing. There's been 15. I only have 14 of them listed. Which one am I missing? Just give me a second. So I'm missing one. I hate that I have to do this. Oh, Respect is the one I'm missing, I think. I just didn't notice it. I think because people were talking behind me in the background. I'm just going to find a place to put that. Just give me a second. So that it probably will change just because I'm doing this one right on the fly. Just give me a second to write this one down because I'll forget to say it otherwise. I think I was just kind of, like I said, I was doing all of this today, so I probably kind of messed it up. Okay, so now I'm ready. So number 15, the one my least favorite one is NXT Takeover Fatal 4-Way. I do think it's a good takeover or a good NXT special. It has some good matches on it. The match between Kalisto and Sin Cara versus the Ascension is a decent NXT Tag Team Championship match, and it also has the moment where the Ascension finally lost the NXT Tag Team Championships, which was great because the Ascension sucked in NXT. What else was on that show? But it also has like some bad matches on it. Like it has, I remember Enzo Amore versus Sylvester LaFleur in a hair versus hair match. That match is terrible. There's another match on. I know there's a match like in between it. Let me pull up the card real quick. I know there's like another match that's like right in between that. The match, it has that squash between Baron Corbin and CJ Parker, which really isn't that bad. It's got that. It's got the debut though of Hideo Itami, which I think is cool. It's got that terrible match between Bo Dempsey and Mojo Rawley. And it has a decent NXT Women's Championship match between Charlotte and Bayley. And then it's got that great though Fatal 4-Way match for the NXT Championship between Adrian Neville, Sami Zayn, Tyler Breeze, and Tyson Kidd. But it also doesn't really feel like an NXT special, so yeah, it is a good special though, but just my least favorite one out of the 15. Then the next one would be NXT TakeOver San Antonio. It's got some good matches on it. It's got that great moment when Bobby Roode wins the NXT Championship and that great match with Shinsuke Nakamura. It's got that great match between #DIY and the Authors of Pain. But it's got that awful NXT Fatal 4-Way match for the NXT Women's Championship between Asuka, Peyton Royce, Billie Kay, and Nikki Cross. It has it has like a decent match between Eric Young and Ty Dillinger. It also has that match that's just okay between Roderick Strong and Andrade Cien, but it's not like a great special. It's a good special though. It's just not my favorite one. It's probably like my second. Then NXT TakeOver London. The reason why I'm putting this show above San Antonio was because it was in front of a London crowd. It did give it a different feel. But I think I remember being vaguely disappointed in this show. And it has that. I thought that show was going to deliver a lot more than what it did. And it has a couple of dud matches like Apollo Crews versus Baron Corbin, the NXT Women's Championship match between Bayley and Nia Jax. And it's got some disappointing stuff on it. So, yeah. And it just didn't deliver like I thought it was going to either. Then we have NXT TakeOver Orlando. I think this is a good special, but it does have some problems. I could just think, I just think it's not. This is when NXT, you could kind of go down a couple of notches as a brand, and this show kind of does show that. But you have like the 8-person mixed tag match that I think is good, but is kind of hurt because they decided to take out No Way Jose for Cassius Ohno. They decided to, they had Ruby Riott and Nikki Cross, who stunk up the joint when they got into an altercation. They were just clumsy. You had Aleister Black and Andrade Cien in an average match that really should have just been a squash match. But you have a great you have that awesome triple threat elimination tag match with the Authors of Pain, the Revival, and #DIY. You have the really good NXT Women's Title match between Asuka and Ember Moon, and then the really good NXT Championship match between Bobby Roode and Shinsuke Nakamura. So this is a show you just shouldn't sleep on at all because it's actually I think a good NXT special. But like I said, some of them, it's just not my favorite one because there's ones I've enjoyed more than that. The next one I think is NXT TakeOver Respect. The reason why this one ranks higher is it wasn't a great, it was a good special, but it has a lot of history-making moment. You had the tribute of the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, and the first ever Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classics. You have a pretty good match between Tyler Breeze and Apollo Crews. You got to see Asuka absolutely annihilate Dana Brooke. Also, you got to see the first time ever woman main event, a WWE event, whether it was an NXT special or mainstream WWE pay-per-view, and it was an Iron Woman match between Bayley and Sasha Banks. That's why this one is ranked up higher, because it, it has a lot of history making stuff on it. Then you have NXT Takeover the End. I think that's actually a great show. You have a lot of good stuff on there. You have the debut of Andrade Cien Almas. You have the history-making night when the Revival beat the American Alpha to become the first ever two-time NXT Tag Team Champions. You got that great match between Shinsuke Nakamura and Austin Aries. You have the decent NXT Women's Championship match between Asuka and Nia Jax. And if you can get a decent match out of Nia Jax, that's saying a lot. And you have that great cage match, the first ever steel cage match on NXT between Finn Balor and Samoa Joe. And the great culmination of their feud, and kind of a little mini send-off for Finn Balor. You could kind of feel like he was leaving NXT. So then you have the NXT TakeOver. The reason why this one ranks higher than this is because this is when you kind of really started to feel like NXT was taking over. And this show delivered when it needed to, because WWE was getting a lot of bad reputation since the stock had dropped. The current product wasn't good. So this show delivered in a good platform. It gave people reason to subscribe to the WWE network, because a lot of people weren't subscribing to the network. But also it's a pretty damn good show. You have that decent opening match between Adam Rose and Camacho. That's a pretty decent. You got a pretty lame NXT Tag Team Championship match, though, between Elbow Cow and Kalisto and the Ascension, where Kalisto was the star in that match. I remember saying that. But you got a great NXT Women's Championship match between Charlotte and Natalya. The great match with Tyler Breeze and Sami Zayn, where Tyler Breeze, you felt like truly arrived in WWE. And then you have that great main event for the NXT Championship between Tyson Kidd and Adrian Neville. And this show just delivered on so many ways that it needed to. So, and you could kind of feel like NXT was kind of slowly starting to become a big brand. And then you have NXT TakeOver Rival. This has a lot of future stars on this show. And feels big. This is when NXT really started to kind of take over as a brand. You have a lot of great stuff. You have Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn's feud really started, and Kevin Owens taking the NXT Championship 2 months to the day that he debuted from Sami Zayn. You got that great 4-horsewoman Fatal 4 match where Sasha Banks wins the championship. You have the decent match between Hideo Itami and Tyler Breeze. That great match between Finn Balor and Adrian Neville. The only dud you have is that Blake and Murphy versus Lucha Dragons NXT Tag Team Championship match. But you even have a fun big men match between Baron Corbin and Bo Dempsey in a no disqualification match. That match was a fun match. Then you have NXT TakeOver Unstoppable. And this is just a great, NXT continued to take over. And you had a great card here. You had Finn Balor versus Tyler Breeze in the opening matchup, which was a good match. You had the great NXT Women's Championship match between Becky Lynch and Sasha Banks. The decent NXT Tag Team Championship match between Blake and Murphy and Enzo Amore and Colin Cassidy. You have that great the one main thing that really makes this show is this is when Samoa Joe debuted in WWE. You never thought you'd see Samoa Joe ever again in WWE, and he just came to WWE, and he was the first one to debut and be able to lose like his ring name since CM Punk. So I think that was great. And then we have NXT TakeOver Toronto. This is just a pretty damn good show. It has that great match between Bobby Roode and Ty Dillinger. It's got it just feels like a big show. You have what else is on this show? You had the return of Mickie James on this show and facing Asuka, really putting her over. There's another match I remember was on this show. That's like you have that great 2 out of 3 falls match for the NXT Tag Team Championships. There's something else on this show though, like in between that match. Oh, the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classics between the Authors of Pain and TM61 really makes future tag team, a future monster tag team. But yeah, it's got the great The match of the year on there, it's got Joe versus Nakamura. I just think that's a great show. Feels like a big NXT special. It's unfortunate this is kind of when NXT kind of started to go down a little bit. And this is number five, and the top five. This is the top five. The reason why this one's at number 5 is NXT Arrival, because this was the first ever NXT special that aired, and it delivered in a big way like it should have. It's got that fantastic match between Cesaro and Sami Zayn. It's even got like a decent match between Mojo Rawley and CJ Poker. That's not too bad. It's got that good women's championship match between Paige and Emma. It's just a shame I can't look at Paige the same way anymore. It's got that pretty decent ladder match between Adrian Neville and Bo Dallas. But this kind of was the first time NXT had been exposed, and it delivers in a big way. And if this show had failed, we probably wouldn't have any other NXT specials today, so that's why I'm ranking it at number 5. And then we have NXT number 4, NXT TakeOver All Evolution. This is when NXT, you could kind of feel like was starting to kind of really become a big deal. You know, you had the debut of Kevin Owens on this show and the way he annihilated CJ Poker. You have there's really not like anything really bad on this show. The decent NXT Tag Team Championship match between the Vaudevillains and the Lucha Dragons. The tag team match between Finn Balor and Hideo Itami versus the Ascension, and the way they introduce Finn Balor and it's the first time you get to see him come out as the Demon. The great NXT Women's Championship match between Charlotte and Sasha Banks, really continuing to revive to revive women's wrestling. And then that fantastic NXT Championship match between Sami Zayn and Adrian Neville. Just, and then it has that great moment at the end where Kevin Owens powerbombs Sami Zayn on the apron, and you could just really feel like the NXT was kind of starting to become this huge brand, and you could kind of see it on this show. So I just think it's great. Then you have NXT TakeOver Brooklyn 2. In my opinion, probably the last probably the last NXT special when NXT was this huge brand. It's got some great stuff on it. It had the debut of Ember Moon. It was Bayley's last match down in NXT, the last time a member of the Four Horsewomen wrestled on NXT, and kind of put over Asuka. You got the crowning of Shinsuke Nakamura as NXT champion, defeating Samoa Joe. What else? Something else. That great NXT Tag Team Championship match between #DIY and the Revival. You had the debut of Bobby Roode, where he beat Andrade Cien. The decent match between Austin Aries and No Way Jose. And there's like the Billy and like. It's just, I think, a great wrestling show. It's not as good as NXT TakeOver Brooklyn, the first one, but it's pretty damn good. And then NXT TakeOver Brooklyn. This is a great show because this is when NXT really became its own brand. This was the first time ever that an NXT special was aired outside of Full Sail University, and the fact that it delivered the way that it did was great. The match card on this show is top notch. You have Juice and Thunder Liger taking on Tyler Breeze. Juice and Thunder Liger finally jumping to WWE, a place he had never been before. It's got actually a good NXT Tag Team Championship match between the Vaudevillains and the Blake and Murphy. It's got the debut of Apollo Crews. It's got that great NXT Women's Championship match between Bayley and Sasha Banks, my favorite NXT special match of all time. And then it's got that really good ladder match for the NXT Championship between Finn Balor and Kevin Owens, which really establishes Finn Balor as the face of NXT. And then we have my favorite NXT special event, though, ever, is NXT TakeOver Dallas, just because it's a perfect wrestling show. It's got the debut of Shinsuke Nakamura and Sami Zayn's final match in NXT, and it just feels like a big show that would air during WrestleMania weekend. It was better than WrestleMania 32, at least if you watch it on TV. For me, WrestleMania 32 was better just because I was there live, so I'm a little bit biased on that. But you get what I'm trying to say, and it was just a fantastic wrestling show. You had the Revival and American Alpha finally winning the NXT Tag Team titles, the debut of Austin Aries, and even though the match isn't my favorite match, it's still, you had Austin Aries in NXT, you had Samoa Joe, Finn Balor, who were able to work a decent match given the rules and stuff. Asuka versus Bailey. You know, you had in that great NXT Women's Title match. So it has some great matches on this show. So my favorite one ever is going to be NXT Takeover Dallas. I don't think that's ever going to change. And then my top five, I don't think will ever change. It's going to be NXT Arrival, NXT All Evolution, NXT Takeover Brooklyn 2, NXT Takeover Brooklyn, and then NXT Takeover Dallas. Everything else probably will change because it's tough to pick like a big list of your top favorite, but my top five will be forever that. But now continuing. Now I'm going to go over my worst competitors at NXT specials. Now this is kind of hard to say because I actually think when it comes to an NXT special, everybody is always on their game. But you always have people that I don't really enjoy watching at these NXT specials. And these, I only picked 5. And there's no like dishonorable mentions. I could really only come up with 5. And I want to go over it. Number 5, Bo Dallas. Now I know he's only competed at 1, but he was in the main event of the first ever special, and it was a ladder match that really was supposed to deliver. And I feel like in a way it's kind of his fault it didn't, just because he's not very good. And you have Adrian Neville, who did everything he could to get this match over, but I feel like Bo Dallas kind of limited him about what he could have done. So I'm going to say Bo Dallas. He's at number 5 just because he's only had 1 special match. Number 4 is Nia Jax. Yeah, she just isn't that good of a wrestler anyways. She's only really had 1 good match at a special against Asuka. The match at Bailey flopped, and it's not really Nia Jax's fault. They probably put her in a spot where she wasn't ready to be in, and had she had more time down in NXT, she would have been better. But it's Nia Jax at number 4, no question. And then number 3 is the Ascension. The Ascension have every NXT special match they have was not very good. They had some, but they did have a couple of decent ones. But they suck. They fought Too Cool, and they only got like a passable. Too Cool was only really able to get a passable match out of them. They fought Kalisto and Aldo Cal in a terrible match, and then they fought Kalisto and Sin Cara. That was a decent match, but I feel like that was carried by Kalisto and Sin Cara. And then it was fought, and then they wrestled Finn Balor and Hideo Itami at NXT Takeover All Evolution. But it's pretty damn hard to have a pretty bad match with Finn Balor and Hideo Itami. I'm just saying. And then we had number 2, Mojo Rawley. Just every match he's had 2 matches there. Every match he had was terrible. CJ Parker didn't belong on NXT Arrival, and then the match with Bo Dempsey is just terrible. So, and then number 1 is Blake and Murphy. The reason why I say Blake and Murphy is because they had no business holding the NXT Tag Team Championships ever. Let's take a look at the match they had. They have a famously bad match that's filled with botches between the Lucha Dragons, and it just didn't really seem like they clicked very well. Then they just have a passable match against Enzo Amore and Colin Cassidy, where they didn't really have any business of winning that. Then they have a decent match with the Vaudevillains. The Vaudevillains were able to pull out a good match. I will give them credit though; they did definitely have their share. But I think, I just never cared about any one of the matches. At least with the Ascension, I care because they were the longest reigning NXT Tag Team Champions. I cared to see them wrestle, wondering if they were going to lose the straps. Then you had Mojo Rawley, and I could say he's the worst, but he didn't really have like a big spot. He never hold the championships or anything. So I'm giving it to fucking Blake and Murphy. It's probably more biased because they're bland and generic, but I don't care. And then we have the best competitors, my favorite competitors in NXT specials. Now this was tough to say, but I think I've come up with the perfect people. You have number 10, Charlotte. I think Charlotte had some great matches down in NXT. You know, the match with Natalya really helped validate women's wrestling. The match with Bayley, she had a very good match with Bayley at NXT TakeOver Fatal 4-Way. Then in NXT TakeOver All Evolution, she had a great match with Sasha Banks. And then she had a great match with, she had a great Fatal 4-Way match The only really match that she had was kind of a dud was against was that tag match she had when it was her and Bayley versus Dana Brooke and Emma. But that match really wasn't that bad either. So she's had some great matches down in NXT and really helped to validate herself. Number 9 was Sasha Banks. Had that great match with Charlotte, Fatal 4-Way, great match with Becky Lynch, and then my favorite match of all time with Bayley, and really stole the show with Bayley at Brooklyn, and then in the Iron Woman match. So loved Sasha Banks's. Hashtag DIY is number 8. They've had some great tag matches down there. Every time they're in a tag match, it's a great match. You know, they had the 2 matches with the Revival and NXT TakeOver Brooklyn 2, and then the 2 out of 3 Falls matches and NXT TakeOver Toronto, where they won the titles. They have the great match with the Authors of Pain at NXT TakeOver San Antonio, and then the one at NXT TakeOver Orlando, and the triple threat that has both teams in it, so can't go on there. You have Bayley, who's had great matches down in NXT. I've already said the list, but obviously she's in my favorite one ever too. So, and then you have the Revival, who really helped validate tag team wrestling down in NXT. They had great takeover NXT special matches against Enzo Amore and Colin Cassidy in NXT TakeOver London, and then they had the 2 great matches NXT TakeOver Dallas and the end against American Alpha, where they ended up becoming the first ever 2-time NXT Tag Team Champions, the only ever 2-time NXT Tag Team Champions. And then you have the 2 great matches with hashtag DIY, and then you have the great NXT TakeOver Orlando match with the where they had the triple threat with the Authors of Pain and hashtag DIY. And then you have Samoa Joe. Every time he was in an NXT special match, it felt like a big deal. He had a pretty good match with Baron Corbin, which was said a lot that he could get a good match because Corbin at the time wasn't a great competitor. He won the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic with Finn Balor at NXT TakeOver Respect. He had 3 great special matches with Finn Balor at NXT TakeOver London, NXT TakeOver Dallas, and then at the end in the cage match, he had 2 great matches with Shinsuke Nakamura at NXT TakeOver Brooklyn 2 and then Toronto. And at Toronto, he became the first ever 2-time NXT champion. So he's had some great matches, and every match he was in felt like a big deal. You had Adrian Neville, who really was like the guy they built around in NXT TakeOver specials. They would always throw him in the main event. He had a decent ladder match with Bo Dallas. He had a great match with Tyson Kidd at NXT TakeOver. Then at Fatal 4-Way, they had that great Fatal 4-Way match with himself, Tyson Kidd, Tyler Breeze, and Sami Zayn. He had that great match with Sami Zayn at NXT TakeOver Evolution, and then that great match with Finn Balor. He was he was in the main event in all of these matches pretty much, so he deserves to be at number 4. Number 3 is Shinsuke Nakamura, because every match he was in was a big deal. He fought the best competitors. He wrestled Sami Zayn in a great match. He wrestled Austin at NXT TakeOver Dallas. He wrestled Austin Aries in another great match at NXT TakeOver The End, and then Samoa Joe at NXT TakeOver Brooklyn 2 and Toronto, and then Bobby Roode at NXT TakeOver San Antonio and Orlando. So can't go on there. And then you got number 2. The reason why I put him at number 2 is Sami Zayn. The reason why is because I have my best and worst matches, and Sami Zayn is all over that fucking list. He has some great fucking matches down in NXT. He has got the great match with Cesaro, the one with Tyler Breeze, and Tyler Breeze is at NXT TakeOver, Cesaro at NXT Revival. He's got the that Fatal 4-Way match at Fatal 4-Way with Kidd, Breeze, and Neville. The one with Neville at NXT TakeOver All Evolution. Then he's got the 2 matches he's had with Kevin Owens, the one at NXT TakeOver Rival, and then the one at NXT TakeOver Unstoppable. And then he's got that fantastic match against Shinsuke Nakamura at NXT TakeOver Dallas, and a perfect send-off for him. So every match, you cared about the story behind Sami Zayn, and he's just all over my list. But my number 1 competitor is Finn Balor. The reason why is because it wasn't just because of his matches. It's because I was interested to see what the entrances he would have. He would always have fantastic demon entrances. He's the one that kind of brought on special entrances at NXT specials. And that's why I'm picking Finn Balor as the best competitor. Is because he was there when NXT became a huge brand, and he, what just had interest, like what demon, what special entrance are we gonna get from Finn Balor? So that's why I'm picking Finn Balor. And then we have the final thing, a couple of things. The first one is the worst matches in NXT specials. Like I said, tough to pick because there's never usually like a bad match. Usually the competitors go out there and put forth full effort. But there is bad matches down at NXT specials. You do have some of them aren't necessarily bad, but they're just not the best. So I'm gonna go over some. But we have a dishonorable mention in here, and that's the match between Austin Aries and Baron Corbin from NXT TakeOver Dallas. The match itself really isn't that bad, like I've talked about. I just don't think it's a very good showcase for Austin Aries. I don't really like the finish that he has, that he couldn't really just decisively beat Baron Corbin. And I just think Austin Aries could have gotten a better showcase than he got. So, yeah. And then, sorry, it just scrolled up. But other bad matches is but now going on to the actual matches themselves. Number 10 is the ladder match for the NXT Championship between NXT Champion Bo Dallas and Adrian Neville from NXT Arrival. Mainly because this match was supposed to be a good showcase for NXT. It was supposed to showcase that Adrian Neville was the man that Gravity forgot, and it just didn't really do a good job of that. This match was kind of a disappointment, so that's why I put this match on my list. Then we have the match from NXT TakeOver Orlando between Aleister Black and Andrade Cien, mainly because it just kind of fell flat. And it really wasn't, they tried to showcase Aleister Black's moveset, but really he should have just squashed Andrade Cien. It just wasn't, it didn't really need to be a match, so that's why but the match itself wasn't bad, that's why I'm putting it at number 9. Number 8 was the tag team match between Charlotte and Bayley versus Dana Brooke and Emma from NXT TakeOver Unstoppable. It's just not that. It's just kind of a pointless match. I don't really know why they put it at a TakeOver. They could have just put it on an NXT, but they clearly just wanted to use this match to get Charlotte and Bayley on the show. But yeah, I just didn't really get why they did that. But continuing, that's number 8. Number 7 is the NXT Women's Championship match between NXT Women's Champion and Bayley versus Nia Jax. This is from NXT TakeOver London. I just didn't really think the match was all that great because it was just Nia Jax destroying Bayley and Bayley making a comeback. I get they were trying to tell the underdog story, but it just didn't work. It was too soon for Nia Jax to be in the spot like I had talked about, so that's why I didn't really care for this match. It's very slow too. And then, so that's number 7. Number 6 is the NXT Tag Team Championship match between NXT Tag Team Champions The Ascension versus Kalisto and El Local from NXT TakeOver. This match just pretty much validates why the Ascension suck. El Local was very clumsy in this match. The only highlight of this match was fucking Kalisto, so yeah. But it's not famously bad, though. Like, some of these matches are probably worse than... I didn't just go for matches that were, like, bad because they weren't good. Like, no one really remembers that match, so that's why I, didn't put it on the top of the list. But number 5 is the match between Apollo Crews and Baron Corbin at NXT TakeOver London. The reason why this is ranked higher was because these were supposed to be the two top stars like in NXT, two of like the big main eventers, and the match just really didn't work. No one really cared about it, and it just kind of fell flat. And yeah, it was kind of questionable why Baron Corbin won in a way, and it just didn't really work. And this is when Baron Corbin didn't really have like a lot of a moveset. But then we have the hair versus hair match between Enzo Amore and Sylvester LaFour from NXT TakeOver Fatal 4-Way. This match sucked. And the fact that this was on a TakeOver was ridiculous. And the match was really short, I remember. And then the guy that lost didn't even get his head shaved, so that was pretty damn stupid. And this is was pointless to have. And then number 3 is the match between Mojo Rawley and Bo Dempsey in NXT TakeOver Fatal 4-Way. You would sneeze and you would miss this match, and there's no reason for this match to be on a TakeOver. And then we have the number 2. It's the Fatal 4-Way match for the NXT Women's Championship between NXT Women's Champion Asuka, Nikki Cross, Peyton Royce, and Billie Kay. Now you're probably all wondering, when I did Best Competitors, why I didn't put Asuka on the list. This match explains it. And also another reason is because she doesn't have a lot of great matches in at NXT specials. Like she had the match with Dana Brooke she had was just a squash. The match with Emma was, I thought, a great match. The match with Bayley is great, but then she kind of had like a decent match with Nia Jax, and a good match with Bayley, but the match at Dallas was better. The match with Mickie James was good, but it didn't deliver like it should have. So she's had a lot of kind of M matches in NXT. Probably if you had like the Charlottes, the Sashas, and the Beckys down there now, you could have possibly gotten some great NXT special matches, which is why they should not have called Becky Lynch and Sasha Banks up to the main roster as soon as they should have. But this match sucks, mainly for a few reasons. One, because Nikki Cross sucks, and they tried to make it look like that she was at the same level as Asuka. Like people act like we wanted to see a match between Asuka and Nikki Cross. Get the fuck out of here. It was way too predictable who was gonna win. The match was really short. And they had and they tried to tease us thinking it was good by having the table spot, but the match is very slow. It has the thing where Peyton Royce is crying because she's not winning when she could just easily hit another move and just wrestle the match. And yeah, it just kind of makes Billie Kay and Peyton Royce look like cowards because they didn't want to go up against Asuka and Nikki Cross. The only real good thing about this match is that Asuka won. Why isn't this match number 1? Well, number 1 is the NXT Tag Team Championship match between NXT Tag Team Champions Blake and Murphy and the Lucha Dragons from NXT TakeOver Revival. This match is bad because there's so many botches in this match. And you can tell this match is bad too because this quieted the NXT crowd, and that crowd usually chants for everything, but this match actually quieted them. They had no reason to throw the straps on Blake and Murphy. They're just generic, and the match just kind of ends, and no one really gave a crap. So that's why this match is the worst one. This is an awful match. But then we have the best matches. And this is my final one. So we have honorable mentions. I have a lot of them. We have the NXT Championship match between NXT Champion Shinsuke Nakamura and Samoa Joe from NXT TakeOver Toronto. I didn't know whether I was going to have this one or NXT TakeOver Brooklyn 2 match that they had, but I thought this match was better. It has that history-making moment where Samoa Joe becomes the first ever 2-time NXT champion. Samoa Joe looks dominant. You could feel like that they actually hated each other in this match, so that's why I put it in there. We have the we have the NXT Women's Championship match between NXT Women's Champion Asuka and Bayley from NXT TakeOver Dallas. It's just a great women's match. Bayley throwing everything that she can to take on the dominant Asuka, but it's just not enough. It's a good story, and it's the start of Asuka's dominance in NXT. Then we have the 60-minute Iron Woman match for the NXT Women's Championship between NXT Women's Champion Bayley and Sasha Banks. It's the first time ever that women main event in a special. The match is just great, and I just didn't quite make my list, but I still think it's a great match, great thing that they were doing for the Women's Revolution. Then we have the NXT Tag Team Championship match between NXT Tag Team Champions The Revival and #DIY from NXT TakeOver Brooklyn 2. A great tag team match. The fact that the #DIY came so close to winning and the way that they lost was pretty damn cool, but it's not quite, but it's only an honorable mention because there's other matches that I enjoyed more. Then we had the elimination tag team match for the NXT Tag Team Championships between NXT Tag Team Champions The Authors of Pain, The Revival, and #DIY from NXT TakeOver Orlando. Just watched this match today, actually. It's a great elimination tag match. it has the hashtag DIY and the Revival working together, which they were two rival tag teams. You never thought you would see that happen. And um, they throw everything at the Authors of Pain, but the Authors of Pain just are just too dominant for them. So I thought that was kind of cool. So I liked that. And then we have the final honorable mention, the NXT Women's Championship match between NXT Women's Champion Charlotte and Sasha Banks from NXT TakeOver All Evolution. This has another great moment of women's wrestling, and another great storyline match. So I thought that was awesome. Then the actual matches is number 10 was the NXT Championship match between NXT Champion Shinsuke Nakamura versus Bobby Roode from NXT TakeOver San Antonio. Just a great match, has great in-ring work, has great psychology when Nakamura hurts his knee, and you question whether or not he could continue a match that's unpredictable because you don't really know where it's going to go. And it had that mark-out moment where Bobby Roode, who was the longest reigning TNA World Champion, was NXT Champion, so I thought that was really awesome. Then we have number 9. It's the NXT Championship match between NXT Champion Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens from NXT TakeOver Rival. It has a great storyline, just two best friends who wanted to tear apart each other. It really puts over Kevin Owens as a dominant monster where he just destroys Sami Zayn. So I think it's just great. And has Kevin Owens winning the NXT Championship. The guy that ruled the indie scene was NXT Champion. Then we have the NXT Championship match between NXT Champion Finn Balor and Samoa Joe from NXT TakeOver London. Same kind of reason. They just threw everything that they had at each other. And they just had great chemistry with each other, and this is the best match that they had. Then we had the ladder match for the NXT Championship between NXT Champion Finn Balor and Kevin Owens from NXT TakeOver. Just a great ladder match, has great psychology in it. Kevin Owens just dominated Finn Balor. Powerbombing him into the apron. The stuff they did with the ladders was really damn cool. Then we have number 6, the Fatal 4-Way match for the NXT Women's Championship between NXT Women's Champion Charlotte, Sasha Banks, Becky Lynch, and Bayley. Really defining women's wrestling again. These were the 4 horsewomen finally going at it, and Sasha Banks winning the title was a pretty emotional moment, and kind of it makes you feel really happy. And then you had my top 5 matches, the NXT Arrival match between Sami Zayn and Cesaro. The first match that ever took place at an NXT special, and it delivers. It was just really back and forth wrestling. They just kept going and going. It was really good from bell to bell. The fact that Sami Zayn wanted to get his big victory against Cesaro, wanted to earn Cesaro's respect, so he just kept throwing at him and throwing at him. And Cesaro was that main veteran who didn't want to lose, and when Cesaro finally won was awesome. You had Sami Zayn when he kicked out of the uppercut at 1 was awesome, and it just really helped put Sami Zayn on the map, and then when Cesaro held his hand, it was just awesome. You have the match between Sami Zayn and Shinsuke Nakamura from NXT TakeOver Dallas, kind of the same reason, but you had Sami Zayn who was having a send-off of NXT. This was Shinsuke Nakamura, first match on the main roster. Hadn't seen anything from his work, and they just kept throwing stuff at each other time in and time out, and you had Shinsuke Nakamura win, and this was a great send-off for Sami Zayn. Then you had the NXT, the title versus career match, Adrian Neville's NXT Championship versus Sami Zayn's career from NXT TakeOver All Evolution. You were telling that story with Sami Zayn, how he could never win the big one. He would always come this close, and he wanted to put it all on the line. You kept telling that story when Sami Zayn, you did storyline elements where he was going to cheat to win by use the title, but he couldn't pull up the trigger. Where Sami Zayn you thought was going to lose this match. You had Adrian Neville, who was taking every shortcut in the book. But then when Sami Zayn finally won that NXT Championship, the roof went nuts. It's a great emotional match. It really sucks you in. Then you have the 2 out of 3 falls match for the NXT Tag Team Championships between NXT Tag Team Champions The Revival and hashtag DIY from NXT TakeOver Toronto. Same reason as the other match, except this match has great tag team psychology, also has great emotion, and just is a perfect match. But then you have my favorite match for the same reason, just is told really well, the NXT Women's Championship match between NXT Women's Champion Sasha Banks and Bayley from NXT TakeOver Brooklyn. Same reason, but you had a perfectly defined heel and a perfectly defined face, and it was the right competitors to go against each other. They had great chemistry, and when Bayley finally won that title, it was just awesome. I just can't explain sometimes why some of these matches are great. You have to kind of watch them for yourself. But those are my top 5 matches from NXT specials. I would probably change some of them around because it's like, there's so many good special matches. You even have like Austin Aries versus Nakamura. That's even a good match. You have like Ty Dillinger versus Bobby Roode, which is a good match. You have the match between Becky Lynch and Sasha Banks for the NXT Women's Championship. Like you have the Revival versus American Alpha, some of their matches at NXT specials. It's just, you even have like I wouldn't say this is a great match, but the Revival versus Endo Amore and Colin Cassidy. And you have some of Tyler Breeze's matches that are really good. Like, I think with the NXT specials, it depends on what type of wrestling you like, but it also, like, you just need to really watch and gravitate towards these special matches because the competitors, when they go out there and wrestle, really put forth full effort. Like, it's really tough for me to pick like a bad match. They have bad matches, but the competitors really go out there and do everything that they can to win, and it's just awesome. They do it for the fans, and I think that's what makes these NXT specials really good, is that you actually feel like these wrestlers care, the characters and storylines behind them, and that's why I always love watching these NXT specials, because they're always going to deliver. I haven't had like sat down and watched one where it's been shit. Like I said, NXT Fatal 4-Way, NXT Takeover Fatal 4-Way is still a good takeover because it's got good stuff on it that keeps me invested in watching. It's just my least favorite one because I got to pick out of all of those, and it's just not one I enjoyed as well. And yeah, NXT, when I originally had started watching it, I was clicked and I was invested. There's been times where I wasn't as invested, but I've always been watching NXT, and even though I don't watch like, and I'm not weekly watching it, when I watch every episode, like boom, 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 it's just awesome. And I think NXT's really kind of helped make a lot of stars that you see now. Like Shinsuke Nakamura is now on the main roster. You have Samoa Joe, who's the #1 contender to the Universal Championship. You have Finn Balor, who's the first ever Universal Champion. You have, Adrian Neville, who's the face of the Cruiserweight division, who's like the Cruiserweight champion and pretty much the dominant champion in that division. You have Sami Zayn, who's starting to hit his stride. Baron Corbin, who's possibly going to be the top heel. You got Kevin Owens, who was just the WWE Universal Champion. He's a 2-time U.S. champion, a 2-time Intercontinental champion. You can just definitely see where it really revitalized people's careers, like Tyson Kidd. Drew McIntyre's now doing some work down there, and I just think that NXT, once you sit down and watch it, you can't deny NXT. I just think it's awesome. And that's all I have to say for the rest of this season. Now, if you haven't watched any of these specials, why haven't you? Watch them and then come back and watch each season. I break down each match very thoroughly. I'm happy I got to sit down and watch all of the NXT specials again. And yeah, so that's about it. Now, I'm not going to promise that I won't do another NXT special review series. I probably won't do it this way again. What I'll probably do is these specials are done and reviewed. It's already in the series, but I know there's gonna be like more specials. So probably what I'll do is I'll come on here maybe I'm not gonna do it like at the next one because the next one's Chicago, but not doing NXT Brooklyn 3, Takeover Brooklyn 3 because I was still be too soon from Chicago. Maybe in 2019, 2020, I'll do this again. If I'm still making YouTube videos anyways, and I haven't died or anything. Yeah, I will probably sit down and start from NXT TakeOver Chicago and go from now, and then I'll do another info session. So it's not like I'll never do this again. I just figured I'd do it once because I had the time. But thank you guys for the patience of me getting these review series up, because now I can finally sit down and watch and catch up on NXT because I'm a few weeks behind. I'm about maybe a month behind or something. So I want to sit down and really watch NXT. I have a lot of stuff I gotta watch now. So thank you guys for watching this series and this season and watching this video itself. Please make sure to subscribe to my CM Brothers channel. Um, I know I know I haven't been very active on that channel, but I've been busy doing this series, this season. So I'll try to get back on that. And then please make sure to subscribe to the Owen the Talkinator channel because I just recently started doing a read aloud series on there that I think is pretty good. I'm not gonna make it probably today. I'll probably upload a video on that tomorrow. And check out all the other channels and stuff in the description box. And please make sure to subscribe to this channel for more content because I'm gonna upload a lot of content for these next few minutes. And that's pretty much it, guys. Talk to you later.